You're listening to the Communications Business Advisor podcast, the podcast for communications professionals in the corporate world who are committed to advancing their work and our field's reputation as critical business advisors that are not only invited to the decision-making table, but are required there. I'm your host, Tara McDonagh.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Communications Business Advisor. So, today we're going to talk about something that might give some of you a little bit of anxiety or agita or heartburn or whatever, but hang in there because there is some really positive news on this if you can listen in. I'm going to start by saying something that I'm hearing and feeling and picking up on from those of you in the field right now who are comms leaders. And here's how it starts. How can you even plan in an environment like this? I mean, I can't even. Yep, that's many of you out there. Yeah, I hear that struggle, and I'll start by saying, solidarity in these times, my friends. You've probably heard me talk before about getting out of constant triage mode and how it starts with a long-term communications strategic plan that's built upon a business plan. But how can you even think about a long-term plan in an environment like this one? I mean, I get it. Those of you who previously understood the assignment, as the kids say, suddenly have a much more complicated assignment these days, and with that complication, you might be a bit worried that you have to instead either abandon strategic planning altogether and hang on by the seat of your pants, or plan anyway and risk the chance that it'll be outdated by the time you pull it together. Again, I get it. The assignment is new now. Businesses are in what the heck is happening mode, and everyone feels like they're being dragged around by administration decisions. But there is no pause button in business. So instead of being dragged, businesses go down scenario planning paths. Plan A, Plan B, Plan C, Plan D. They're all created, and then the business shifts to adjust their plans based on wherever the administration or the markets or whatever takes us. So in that kind of environment of scenario-based strategy and constant pivots, how can you effectively create a strategic communications plan that will make sense and drive impact? Well, my friends, I'm glad you asked, theoretically, here. Here's where you start. First, you already know that starting a communications plan from the business plan is the blueprint for success. So you start with the newly adjusted business plan. And if you tell me there isn't one, I'm going to challenge you on that. Because there is some method of planning that the company has to do to maintain and likely grow financially. And if there's a financial plan, then there's a business plan. There is some sort of target on how they will go about growing. You just might not know what it is. So if this sounds like you and you're the top leader in corporate comms, then go get in there and ask questions and learn it. If you do know the newly adjusted business plan, then that's a great place to start, even if it isn't all figured out. There are pieces that will be adjusted and changed and shifted, and then they will be changed again, but certain things will remain. Again, this is your blueprint. I mean, think of a house blueprint, for example. Maybe you tear down a wall or put on an addition or reinforce a beam. You might even tear down entire portions to build it differently. But the house blueprint is still a blueprint for a house. And even in this environment, your company still offers whatever product or service that it offers. Maybe it's healthcare or insurance or software, or it's gaming. Maybe it's university education. Or they make sneakers or French fries or lawnmowers. Whatever it is, your company's fundamental business is still your company's fundamental business. Now, there may be shifts to that business because of what's happening in the economy or the markets due to tariffs or federal grant money or whatever. but your company still offers what it offers. Now, the company plan for how it will maintain or grow in this chaotic environment is most likely the thing that is shifting. The what is still the what. It's just that the how is maybe not the how anymore. Maybe the company is sourcing components for our product differently, which will then impact staffing models, among other things. Maybe the company is looking at acquisitions as a more serious plan for growth, which again impacts where you spend your time and attention. Or let's say everything at the company requires a different level of connection and tracking of government officials and influencers behind influencers. That sounds like a public affairs strategy, and that will be much more critical right now. These all sound like they're ripe for communications strategies that connect with business plans. As always, again, start from the business goal. At minimum, it's about protecting and advancing the company reputation. Next level, it's about how you'll support the growth plans through comms strategies, as it always is. Let's say, for example, a company's goal is to increase revenue by 10%, and some of that was previously earmarked as growth in international markets. But for various reasons, those plans are shifted now. The company still plans to grow by 10%, but its plans are now to grow domestically. So how will they do that? Well, maybe the plan is now on local market penetration, and part of that is taking market share from competition, or targeting a new market within a geography, or more significant acquisition activity. That's a whole different comm strategy, right? Whole different strategy from the original international plan. Your staffing, resourcing, where you focus, and all of your work shifts in that kind of environment. Company priorities shift, and so do yours. Your actions, time, energy, staffing, they all change. So let's take this example further. Your company, let's say as an example, has shifted to focus on domestic growth versus international. Again, that's where we're headed in this example. From a comms perspective, maybe you previously had people in regional roles in various countries to help with the company's planned growth path. But now you need to realign that staffing model. So taking that example further, let's say the company now plans domestic growth through acquisitions. In that case, you'll need both PR and maybe investor relations if you're responsible for that. And you'll need change management comms that will bring new employees in from newly acquired orgs into the company as smoothly as possible, because no one really thinks about that part except for you. But we're jumping ahead here. Staffing is one component of the plan. But again, start from the goals. So if the company's growth plan is to grow domestically through acquisitions, you need PR, internal comms, maybe investor comms, and change management objectives to make an acquisition successful. And if your company is public, investor relations again, unless that's handled in finance or somewhere else. But let's assume for a second that there's this central model. You'll also need some public affairs strategies, stakeholder management like board members, perhaps community engagement, and, well, I could go on here. But instead of thinking of the departments or the business areas, you think of the strategies that are needed and what you would do to support the strategy. In acquisitions, there's the engagement you have to do with whomever is internally preparing the acquisition, and you getting ready with the initial internal and external announcements about it. And then there's the integration after the fact, bringing employees into the fold, which is a cross-functional effort involving a whole bunch of business areas from HR to IT to finance and more. These are all things that you can and should capture in your plan, and then you talk about how to do the work of it and how you'll measure success. And if you aren't considering how you grow in this environment as a comms leader with a comms team, you might have missed that critical memo. Check out the last episode. Yes, you can grow in this environment as a team and as an individual. So I encourage you to think first about what the business needs, then think about how to sell it. Needs first, advocating next? Are you overwhelmed yet? I mean, I don't blame you. Because what I will say is that it's not impossible to plan right now. I'm going to say that again. It is not impossible to plan right now. But it could absolutely become near impossible to plan, triage all of the constant issues, deal with management stuff you have to advise on, shift team member responsibilities quickly enough to address the new business plan, lead your team, keep your sanity, yada, 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 all simultaneously. So let me say this. You do not need to do this all on your own. Please do not do this all on your own. And if you're thinking that way, allow me to check that attitude, my friends. Your CFO is not doing all of the financial planning alone. Why do you think you need to? This is where you bring in help. Now, that help could be in the form of more arms and legs, and that seems to be a go-to among comms senior leaders in a lot of ways. Maybe it's bringing in change management comms contractors, or it's a PR agency that's needed for external comms related to the acquisitions. Maybe you just need some writers to lift the content capacity pain that you're in. Maybe it's a public affairs agency to manage all of the additional government agency and executive brand impacts on the business. Or maybe it's an internal comms freelancer who can take on a project or two that you can just hand off. Most of the time, comms leaders, their tendency is to find more arms and legs as the first go-to. I get that. I mean, it can be wildly helpful when things feel over capacity and constantly changing to just have some more smart comms folks to take on some of that execution. But before you do that, ask yourself, is that truly what you need right now? Is it? Or is it someone to lift the burden of the strategic planning in this time of change? Is it another mind to help you think through how to operationalize comms strategically in the new and very different world that you're in? To help you take a step back from the chaos and build something that will work and will impress so that you can get more for the team, for the company, for yourself, for our industry? Think it over. If you need more arms and legs, give a think on the form that takes, then go make the case for it. If what you need is someone to lift the burden of doing all the strategic planning and helping you and your team operationalize that planning, reach out to me. If both is what you need, now we're talking, my friends. But maybe you're not sure how the arms and legs part goes. Like, what do you actually need? Guess what? You can have a thought partner and me helping you figure that out too. That's what I do for a lot of my clients, most of my clients. I often help them assess gaps and lead them in the direction of a consultant or an agency, a writer, a designer, an event planner, even a new staff member. I've even written job descriptions for new leaders because I know what they need. Whatever's needed for the team to operate effectively in this new world, and also considers the reality of the business that they are in and how to get what's needed from the people at that tippy top. Okay. That's it. This episode is a bit shorter than usual. And we have just one more before we move into the final episode of the season. I'm taking the summer off of the podcast here, but I will be back in the fall with more on all things communications business advising. And you can always find me on LinkedIn and through the Level Up the Extra emails. If you haven't signed up for those already, you can go get access through the taramcdonough.com website. Link is in show notes. Until next time, keep advising, my friends. Keep advising. Let's elevate our field and the people in it.
If you're interested in working with me to advance your work and your team's reputation as critical business advisors, never order takers, check out taramcdonough.com. Thanks for listening to the Communications Business Advisor podcast. If you found this episode helpful, please leave a rating or a review. It helps people find us, and we can't ignite a movement without sharing the message. See you next time, where we'll continue to do the work to elevate our field's reputation and elevate the careers of the people in it. I created Raise the Tide to help elevate our field and the women in it. It's part community, part coaching, part professional development, and part mentorship. It encompasses all of these things because it takes all of these things to rise in your career. I asked a few Raise the Tide crew members to share what their experiences have been like in the program, and here's what they had to say. What's one thing that's been surprising to you about Raise the Tide?
I honestly was surprised by how quickly I felt part of something really unique and special.
Something that surprised me about being in Raise the Tide is just how much I feel seen. My crew holds up a mirror for me and even helps me see myself in ways that I haven't before. It's extremely validating, and it's a pretty powerful experience.
I was really nervous at first about how would I gel with everybody else in the group, and would we really get to know each other, and would we really become close? It's amazing how suddenly they become your biggest group of cheerleaders and your biggest advocates and the ones pushing for you and rooting for you. And that was really surprising to me.
If you're interested in this program, head on over to taramcdonagh.com and complete the Raise the Tide form. A rising tide raises all ships, but we're not the ships. Together, we're the force of the tide, raising the ships for our entire industry.